Well, hello, accounting students. I had so much fun in my intermediate accounting class today that I decided to make a little video on what we did and share it with you, our online students. We're doing chapter 3 where we're exploring the balance sheet. And we read the chapter and covered it nicely, and then we thought, it'd be more interesting to actually see a real balance sheet and look at that. So, for no particular reason, we chose IBM. And what was really fun was to see how fast we could get information on IBM and how complete that information might be. Years ago, when I studied accounting, you had to write for financial statements. You guys can get it in 30 seconds. What I'm going to show you is we're going to log on to IBM, drop down, and on the bottom of the page, click on Investors to find Investor Relations info, open up their annual report, and look at some things that we studied in the chapter. And then we're going to have you save that annual report, hopefully to a computer, the whole thing, so we can use it all semester, and then print pages 76 through 84 so you can use it to calculate some information and follow along with this video. So let's start. Let's go to a browser and visit IBM. Just zip on into their website. Here we go. I'm going to drop down to the bottom nav bar and go over to information and find information for investors. And a lot of information populates. You can explore this on your own. I'm going right for their last annual report. And that's how long it takes for you to be able to grab an annual report of any business that you would like who is currently involved in interstate transactions. This is IBM's annual report, and I'm going to slip down a little bit and say, well, first thing you'll find in all annual reports is a letter from the CEO telling you how the year went. And here's our CEO of IBM, Virginia Romedy. So hello, Virginia. And she is currently running the ship for IBM. What follows next in an annual report is several pages of marketing, though there's no other way to describe it. And now it's kind of like we're flipping through it. I'm going to go ahead and just keep flipping, show you a lot of marketing's done in these expensive annual reports. I'll bet they're happy. Can deliver it electronically. Always at the front of financial reports is financial highlights, where you as an investor can find information that you may desire readily and quickly. And this has a lot of information that you might just want to know right off the bat. The next page, of course, would be sort of a table of contents. In our book, we learned about management's discussion. Notice in our report, it's about, 50 pages long. Then there's the report of management and the audit report. And they're called slightly different things, but that's all right. They often are. Management discussion just talks to you a little bit about how the year went, and it could be construed as accurate but biased, where they're trying to tell you about their year in a positive way. Then comes the management report, where we talked about management taking responsibility. It actually says responsibility for the integrity of this financial statement lasts with IBM's management. They are taking responsibility for their financial information, and they're also taking responsibility for adequate internal controls being in place to ensure accurate financial reporting. Our president and our CFO have signed this report, and Sarbanes-Oxley, the law that came about as a result of all of the turmoil in the last decade in the financial markets, now says that if Virginia and Martin sign this and it's later found to be grossly negligent, that they are subject to a $250,000 fine and 20 years imprisonment. So teeth in Sarbanes-Oxley. Here's our audit report. This was also talked about in the book. Remember, you could have an unqualified one that was qualified for something subject to or except for clauses. You could have an adverse opinion where they did not meet the financial, or they did not follow GAAP, and disclaimers of not even being able to make a report at all. I'm pleased to say The IBM's financial report is unqualified. It presents fairly in all material respects the results of operations. Now our financial statements, a consolidated statement of retained earnings, our statement of comprehensive income, our consolidated statement of financial position. You would know this as the balance sheet. Consolidated just means that they have ownership of 50% or more in some entities, and so all of it's consolidated. Well, here's IBM's balance sheet. Period of time statement requires that you show 3 years, and the point of time statement is required that you show 2 years. So IBM's showing 2012 and 13. One thing I really like about the way IBM does financial reporting is they reference where the note that relates to this topic is, so it's very easy to find the notes on any topic. They help direct you there. And like we said in the book, there has to be a statement on the financial statements that say the notes are an integral part of the accompanying financial statements. There's good disclosure, and it helped to find the disclosure with these notes. And also notice that on stockholders' equity, the balance sheet is meeting the required disclosure on the face of the balance sheet. You must show on the face common stock, its par value, authorized, issued, and you can see what's outstanding because there is treasury stock, and you can subtract that from what's been issued and know that amount. And then total stockholders' equity. So it's really very easy to find financial information for IBM. There's a lot of notes left, like 80 pages of notes. There are far more notes to the financial statements than statements themselves. So let me close this annual report for IBM and go back to what we were doing in class. I then had the students take the information from those annual reports and answer the ratios that were at the back of our chapter. They asked you to do some liquidity analysis, and then they asked you to do some risk analysis, and the formulas were presented in the chapter. So go ahead, put this on pause, and using the financial statements you printed from IBM, calculate these amounts if you wish. And now I'm going to scroll down, and this is what we saw. From 2012 to 2013, we did a little bit of trend analysis. IBM's current ratio was 1.13, or for every dollar they had in debt, they had $1.13 in assets to support it. It improved to 2013. They now have $1.28 for every dollar in current liabilities. The asset test ratio is a more stringent test, and again, you can see improvement from 96 to 1.07. So for every dollar they have in liabilities, they have $1.07 in quick assets to pay them. Working capital increased. Remember, this is in millions, so they went, I'm going to say in thousands as it's easy for us to wrap our head around, from $5,800 to $11,000 in working capital. So more than doubled, really, their working capital in the period. So on the liquidity front, they look more liquid. They're not the strongest liquidity numbers, but the trend's positive. Let's look at the risk now, debt to equity. For every dollar IBM has in equity, they have $4 in debt in 2012 and $5.28 in 2013. So as far as debt goes, they're more heavily leveraged. If you look at debt as a percent of assets, it was 84% in 2012 and 82% in 2013. I myself don't like to see assets financed with more than 75% debt. So you could say IBM's heavily leveraged. They use a lot of debt, more debt and less equity in their capital structure, maximizing the return to shareholders, but also enhancing their risk. But when you look at how many times they cover their interest payments, it actually improved. It was 48 times in 2012 and 49 when you get to 2013. So what does the trend data show us? A little more liquid, but higher leverage. Wouldn't it be interesting now to compare IBM to their competitors? And that's what I want to show you next. It it's really, really very easy to do. What I want to do is show you how to use the Hoovers.com financial reporting database and show you how to access it and find out information you might be interested in. It's accessible through Salt Lake Community College's website. You go to the A to Z index and into the library. It says choose on articles. I gave them a hard time. Interesting story here. So they changed that to articles/databases just today. And we're going to click on Hoover's Merchant in the drop-down menu and see what we can see about IBM and their competitors. And here are the instructions. Let's go ahead and do it, and you'll see how it's done. I'm on college's website. Hi to our new president. Hi, Denise. A to Z index. L for library. Go into the library's website. Select articles. Now it's articles/database. Yay. And I'm going to slide on down to Hoover's Merchant and say I'd like to see that. If you haven't accessed this before, it will now ask you for your S number and the last 4 digits of the phone number you used when you gave the college information about you. And now it will click and we're in Hoover's. I'd like to see information on IBM. It populates and there you go. There is a world of information about IBM here that you can explore, but I don't want to take a lot of your time. I do think you should explore this. I'm going to go into competition and look at the competitive landscape. And very quickly, you can find out information on IBM, their major competitors, and the market as a whole. Annual sales for IBM, Hewlett-Packard, Microsoft, and net profit. Whoa, look at what Microsoft's doing compared to the rest when it comes into keeping their money that they make. Some key numbers, and then they analyze profitability, but we're not doing income statements. Valuation, we're not trying to value this company. Operations, I'm not trying to see how efficient they are. I'm going to go to their 2013 financial data, and this is the ratios that I had you run. Now you might see a little variance in what we calculated for IBM. Well, too many lines. What we calculated for IBM and what Hoover's did, and that just is because of doing it in a mass way. And I want to compare them. I'm just curious to how they compare to Microsoft. I could pull the industry if I wanted to, or the market as a whole, but I'm just going to bring forward some Microsoft numbers. So in roughly 2 minutes, I was able to get to all kinds of information about IBM. And this was instructions I followed. I'll send this file to you so you can have that. And let's see how IBM compares to Microsoft. Microsoft is far more liquid on the current ratio. They're far more liquid on the acid test ratio. They have higher working capital. One could say Microsoft is more liquid than IBM. Microsoft uses much less debt. For every dollar in equity, they have 92 cents in debt, whereas IBM has $5.28 for every dollar of equity. In the last page of the book, your author talked about how you can use debt to maximize your return to shareholders. And let's see what they did. The return to common stockholders for Microsoft is still a healthy 26%, but IBM was able to maximize their return to shareholders at 95% based on a judicious use of common stock and an intense use of debt. With more debt comes a higher return, or with more debt comes higher risk, and with higher risk, you must have higher return. So you can see all of that coming to fruition in these financial statements. So, did looking at the competitors affect your opinion of IBM? It did mine. Now I know that IBM uses a lot of debt to maximize the return to their shareholders, and they've played that card pretty far. They're not as liquid as they could be, but they've improved in that in the last year. And there's a lot of debt in their capital structure, 82%. Microsoft is more liquid, has far less debt in their capital structure, more comes from equity than debt. But as you would expect to see, there's a decrease in the return on shareholders. a trade-off between risk and profitability or return, a trade-off between risk and return. So there you go. I thought that was fun. We did that in class. I thought it was an exciting and fun project. I thought you internet students might like to share that with us. So I'm going to send you a link to this so you can share that with us and hope that you learn that it's easy to get financial information and easy to get competitors' information to draw decisions from. So, thanks for joining me. I'll send this out to you in a file with these instructions. And y'all have a good day. Good luck on your upcoming tests. Bye for now.